Chapter 4. Introduction to Writing. Paragraph Writing. Classroom Activity. 1. You love your mother very much, for she is an ideal mother. Describe her in your own words. Ans. My mother. My mother is my role model. She is the one who I aspire to be when I grow up. She is nice and smart. I wish to inherit most qualities of my mother to become a good person like her. Firstly, I want to be a responsible person like my mother. She is the most responsible person because she cooks before going to work. Not all mothers cook because they don't have time. The most amazing thing is she does it every day and is never late for work. Secondly, I wish to inherit her compassionate nature. She has taught me to believe in people and not to hold grudges. She is always respectful to others. Thirdly, my mother is an optimistic person. I also want to be a strong and positive person like her. She has learned how to move on from negativity towards positivity. I love how she respects herself and motivates us not to give up. 2. One of your friends, Raman, is very gentle and polite to you. You regard him as your best friend. Describe him in a paragraph. Ans. My friend, Ramam, is quite tall and kind of athletic because he is good at sport. He has curly hair and has big eyes. His eyes are dark brown. He has a small nose and a small mouth too. He walks in a very elegant way and his gestures are always very refined and slow. He also wears very nice clothes, so I think she gives a good impression to people that meet him. My friend is a little overweight, but he is very strong because he likes to go to the gym. He has short blonde hair and blue eyes. He is always smiling and has a big smile for the world to see. He sometimes rubs his chin when listening to people. He likes to wear sports clothes. He is very gentle and soft. F87. Exercise. EVERSHINE. Develop an event descriptive paragraph using the following hints. Road accidents are common in metropolitan cities. Last week I was returning home from college. Speeding bus hit a scooter and overturned it. Pieces of broken glasses lay scattered. 0. Scooter driver and some passengers wounded badly. Police arrived and arrested bus driver. Oz. The accident I have ever seen. Road accidents are common in metropolitan cities. Last week I was returning from college. A bus was moving at the fast speed and it had hit a scooter and overturned it. The vehicle turned into pieces. The scooter driver and some passenger from the bus got wounded very badly. Soon police arrived and arrested the bus driver. I thank to the God to save the lives of many people. I can never forget this bus accident which I had witnessed. 2. Write a paragraph describing a journey, imaginary or you have undertaken. You can follow the steps given below. Prepare an itinerary. You can make use of the following expressions, phrases and proverbs frequently used by the travelers. Jet lag, itchy feet, hit the road, timetable, on the home stretch, call it a day, book in advance, travel over, travel through, travel light, in a storm, stopover, etc. As a journey by bus. A journey by bus is dull and boring. Once we occupy a seat, we remain stationary there till we reach our destination. We cannot move freely in a bus. Heat in the summer and cold in winter make the journey troublesome and unbearable. I seldom travel by bus, but this summer I had to travel by bus to Manali since the entire family was going on a summer vacation by bus. Our luggage was loaded on the roof of the bus and I managed to get a window seat, much to the envy of my cousins. We left at 6 o'clock in the morning. The weather was quite pleasant. Sunshine was filtering in through the windows on the other side of the bus, so my side was quite cool. A cool breeze was blowing and it was very refreshing. All family members started chatting, although a few elders tried to catch some sleep since everyone had woken up quite early. We had packed sandwiches and cold drinks which we had for breakfast in the moving bus itself. It was a lot of fun since everyone had to pass the eatables on the bus. I was carrying storybooks, magazines and the morning newspaper with me. First I read the newspaper to catch up with the latest developments and then went through the magazine for some time. It was lunchtime and we decided to stop at the roadside dhaba in one of the villages of Punjab. The food was very delicious and different from what we eat at home. Everyone stretched their tired limbs and some people even lay down on the cots for some time. After lunch, it became quite hot. I drew the curtain at the window and decided to sleep for some time. With a full stomach and rocking bus, I fell asleep within a couple of minutes. F88. 3 Sem. B. Com. BBA generic. When I woke up I could not believe my eyes. The bus was negotiating steep curves and I realized that we had entered the hills. Tall trees cast their shadow on the road and a very fresh wind livened everyone up. The children started singing songs and the elders joined by clapping vigorously. It was getting chilly and we took out light woolen to cover ourselves. We refreshed ourselves with hot tea and started to enjoy the lovely scenery. We could see terraced forms, small streams of water, and waterfalls running down the mountainside, and the local hill people cheered whenever they saw our bus. There were apple orchards, plum trees, and tall chinar trees. It was like a dream come true and was just like the storybooks that we had read. As dusk started to fall, the conductor announced that we had reached our destination. One didn't know how time flew, and this bus journey was very different from the usual dull and loving journeys. I will remember this bus journey all my life. 3. Classroom activity. 1. Money never solves problems. ANS. Money never solves problems. When you grow up without enough money, it's easy to develop an unhealthy mindset about it. For one thing, it's common to believe that a lack of money lies at the root of all your real problems. But it's more complicated than that. Money solves specific problems: housing, food, shelter, transportation, etc. But money also isn't unlimited. Not for most of us, anyway. Over the past year, the hardest lesson I've learned about money is that you can quadruple your income, but it still may not be enough. You will always have to make choices about how you spend your money. If you're used to living in poverty but earn $100,000 one year, yes, your life will change. But you won't necessarily be wealthy forever, and you also won't be able to afford everything you need. 1 year doesn't erase the previous 30. People who live in poverty for long accumulate huge deficits that we rarely talk about. Often, these deficits result in huge medical bills or dental bills. You might pay down debt. E. Il sem nepbcu. By S. The. Air. As. Ed. 98356. G. H. EVERSHINE. Finally start various therapies, purchase a car, or finally catch up on needs at home. Allunately, 1 year of a great income isn't going to take you out of poverty, not completely. And that's because your money isn't unlimited, but your needs have likely been racking up for decades. You will have to make choices about how to spend that money, and unless you've walked into many hundreds of thousands of dollars, or millions, you're bound to feel the limits of that money sooner rather than later. The elderly should be cared for in their own homes. And when caring for the elderly, there are a number of important things you have to take into consideration. As well as the possibility of nursing home care and long-term care, there is an increase in the number of older people who have complex needs. There is also an increase in the amount of home support given to older people. This is a great time for those giving home support services to learn 1 or 2 things about giving better care to seniors. It's general knowledge that the greater a person's disability, the greater their needs. However, some elderly people have said their needs are not met by those who take care of them. Some seniors, however, also indicated that their needs are met. But there is evidence that points to the fact that older people simply do not like complaining. However, deep down, most seniors do not have the ultimate care they desire or deserve. There is a huge gap which caregivers have to fill. To fill these gaps, caregivers have to remember some important things the next time they take care of elderly people. So, what do you have to remember when providing in-home senior care instead of a residential care in a long-term care facility? To be honest, it is quite straightforward. As well as any obvious health care and personal care, they are the simple things we neglect on a daily basis. They are every human's basic inner needs, they are just needed more by older people. 3. Keeping animals in zoos is inhumane. Wild animals are killed and kidnapped to supply zoos. For starters, animals are not naturally found in zoos. The way animals initially find themselves in zoos is that they are kidnapped from nature and then brought to zoos. Zoos prefer to capture and display young animals, but the parents stand in the way. So zoos often hire hunters to kill the parents and then put the bereft baby animals in shipping containers and then ship them to their final destinations. Many animals die in transport. Brutal invasive techniques are used to collect semen from male animals and artificially inseminate female animals. Once a species is brought into a zoo, zoos often use captive breeding programs to produce younger animals who are a steady draw for visitors. Zoos often keep animals in solitary confinement for long periods of time or sometimes for an animal's entire life. When they are introduced to members of the opposite sex of their species, it is not uncommon for captive animals to refuse to mate in such a hostile setting instead. Zoos often sexually violate the bodies of animals and artificially impregnate animals to produce young. Animals are not allowed to choose their own mates or friends. For captive animals, we th. 3 sem. B. Com. BBA generic English, and restrict what they can do and with whom they can socialize. We often separate them from their families and friends. We decide with whom they can mate with, or deny them access to a mate entirely and artificially induce pregnancy instead. Animals are not allowed to make their own decisions about how to spend their time. We limit their movements, their behaviors, their ability to fully realize their higher order needs, such as the desire to live autonomously, to make decisions, and to do meaningful work. We naively assume that only we humans can have a sense of purpose or partake in actions for the common good of our species or all species, and we deny animals the existence of their very real experiences. Lastly, when animals get old, zoos often decide they are not worth the expense of keeping them, especially when baby animals are such box office hits compared to older animals. Zoos often kill, surplus animals or sell them to hunting ranches, medical laboratories, or poorly run roadside zoos. 4. Everyone should spend several months per year working for the betterment of others in a nonprofit social service organization. ANS. Volunteering your time to support a cause you are passionate about is something you will never regret. It will enrich your life, familiarize you with your community, and connect you to people and ideas that will positively impact your perspective for the rest of your life. Helping your community is an opportunity for you to grow as a person, to better understand how you fit into the world around you. Why is it so important to find a cause you love and volunteer your time? Spending time enriching your community is a great way to broaden your perceptions of the world. By immersing yourself in a community and surrounding yourself with people who are dedicated to bettering the world, you can learn so much about how the world works. You gain a unique sense of purpose by serving those around you, one which often manifests in other areas of your life. Of course, it's also important for your community. Without volunteers, many of the services and events we enjoy in our communities would not be so readily available. Spending time helping out at local shelters or food banks provides an important service to less fortunate neighbors. Giving back to the place you call home helps to unite the community and bridge some of the social, economic, and political gaps. 5. Education is the passport to a better life. ANS. A better future. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for today. People have very different reasons on why going to college and getting an education is important for them. A college education is one of the key values to one's successful future by providing a secure pathway into finding a lifetime career. College education does not only help a person get a job, but also teaches he or she how to invest in themselves financially, socially, and mentally. Everyone wants a better future, but what are they willing to face to get it? The word education has many different definitions. It can be defined as the act or process of educating or being educated. College is more than classes, papers, and exams. It is also a meaningful social experience. Where people develop friendships and long-term relationships. Is college worth the cost? College is more than a place of education. It is also a place for people to enhance their EVERSHINE communication skills with people they do not know and understanding cultures they are not of. He discusses how people who do not attend college miss out on several important experiences that, like income potential, have lifelong implications. Colleges offers people the opportunity to live, work, and socialize within a contained society made up almost of people their own age. They share similar experiences and develop close personal relationships. Almost 30% of Americans report meeting their future spouses in college. Not all of these marriages began with college relationships, but they did find a spark in a friendship developed on campus. Facing, managing, and overcoming tough challenges in an environment that also requires participation in the classroom gives students confidence. They learn that they can take steps to manage their own lives, and develop strategies that make them more resilient to challenges. As a result, they have a more positive with their self-image, are more confident about their choices, and are comfortable interacting in groups and engaging. Exercise 1. Expand the outline using hints given in the box to write a persuasive paragraph. On. Plastic bags should be banned. A. Land and air are getting polluted. B. Consumption of polluted water and seafood circa fatal diseases and abnormalities. D. Educational campaigns should be conducted. E. Indirectly consuming the plastic one, causing the extinction of some of our aquatic life. G. Use of plastics has made our lives better and bitter. H. Alternatives for a plastic bag are jute bag, gunny bag or paper bag. Ends people are more aware of the fact that plastic is harmful to the environment, and if we keep increasing the use of plastic, it is possible that we are creating a more harmful environment sooner than later. In this essay on should plastic be banned, it is important to understand that plastic in itself is not harmful when used or recycled and reused. It is rather the littering of plastic on the streets, on land and water bodies, and the single-use plastic bags which are disposed in the same manner and cannot be recycled. Plastic is a non-biodegradable matter and takes eons to get decomposed, so it is only natural that when such matter is only increasing, then the threat to nature also rises. Many countries like Italy, Bangladesh, China, and Kenya have taken the initiative to ban the use of plastic and are not given any to the public at any checkout counter. However, there are many countries that have not adopted this, as it is also difficult to find an alternative to plastic that is easily decomposable and safer for the environment. So, rather than completely banning the use of plastic, we must find ways of recycling and reusing plastic so that the dumping of plastic does not deteriorate the natural environment. 2. Write a comprehensible, persuasive paragraph about problems of smartphones, using the following hints. A. Impacts on physical and mental health. B. Loneliness and depression. C. Stress and anxiety. 2. SEM, BC. D. Sleep disorders. E. Encouraging self-absorption. F. Impacts on social relationships. ANS. Nearly all of today's society has a smartphone in hand. As a whole, we depend on this phone in the same aspect as we did a baby blanket in our childhood. Major mental health issues, such as lack of social skills, memory problems, and stress are due to this technology. These are some of the biggest concerns when it comes to owning a phone, unfortunately. The effects are not fully realized. These devices have brought several problems in users' lives, despite supposedly making it easier. Everyday human social interactions are suffering due to the part smartphones play. Furthermore, being connected through this technology is something that is bragged upon. Users are not as connected as they would like to think. Users no longer depend on their own brain to help them know what they need to. The smartphone is relied upon completely, and when it dies or is damaged, those people are utterly lost on what to do. Technology is a useful servant, but a dangerous master. Treated as if it is the memory, people no longer attempt to remember events on their own. Stress is encountered in everyday life, and technology does not give the individual the opportunity to step away. The constant use of these devices gives no breaks to the user, always looking at emails, calls, texts, and social media. The younger generation especially struggles with this feeling of being unable to get away. The majority of their participants reported that they felt they were expected to be available around the clock, which increased feelings of stress. The feeling of constantly needing to check one's device only amplifies this feeling of stress and inescapability. This need to know what is happening in the outside world at all times is almost like an addiction, that if a user does not answer or check their smartphone, they will be missing out on critical events. The inability to withdraw causes the stress of work or school to follow wherever that person goes, and the stress of being connected is never ending in society today. Smartphones were originally intended to help users live more efficient, stress-free. Classroom activity. 1. Attempt writing brief comparative paragraphs on the following subjects. ANS, fast food vs. homemade food. Homemade cooking is one of the most vital elements of the normal life of any human. It is necessary to admit that people need food not only to receive nutritious elements but also to deal with hunger and to satisfy the moral need of eating something delicious. It is not a secret that homemade cooking, especially for a family of several members, is not a simple task. It requires a lot of preparation and effort in order to cook something delicious and edible. In addition, the pace of life several decades ago was completely different from the modern one. Therefore, the fast food chains and the fast food itself started to spread across the planet rapidly. It was an instant hit because there were not any inconveniences regarding the fast food. It was cheap, people did not have to wait for the food for too long, and people did not need to prepare for the fast food, as the employees of the cafe did everything. The same aspects are present in the modern world. However, in recent years, many people have become concerned about the quality of fast food and its influence on evershin health, making it one of the most debatable topics in the modern era. At the same time, homemade cooking has not lost its popularity at all, as people continue to eat nowadays at their home and cook for themselves. The homemade cooking is less harmful than fast food and it is better for the state of the individual. First of all, it is necessary to state the most obvious facts about fast food. It is harmful but tasty. There are a lot of different chains of fast food companies. Some of them provide dishes made of ingredients that are beneficial for the processes inside the body. However, it is necessary to be realistic about this, as there are not a lot of these fast food cafes. In fact, the absolute majority of the fast food producers use processed leftovers of meat and vegetables in order to cut the expenses. Lecoviello. Therefore, the fast food is not healthy and positive for the organs and for the entire state of the individual. On the contrary, it could harm the person in case of daily consumption of fast food. In fact, a person who eats fast food on the regular basis has higher risks of having diabetes, obesity, heart or respiratory diseases. It is a fact and it is just necessary to consider this idea. Furthermore, the fast food contains fatter than the homemade cooking, which is a negative aspect as well. The majority of people do not look for their body until there are certain problems with it, and the fast food could damage the body for years without even provoking serious diseases, but it could create an agenda and comfortable environment for the diseases to appear and develop inside the individual. What is more important is that fast food could use ingredients that contain nitrates and other chemicals. These chemicals are added in order to save the ingredients for a longer period of time, rather than storing them for several days only. It is not about controversial GMO but also about really dangerous chemicals that are widely used in the fast food industry by the majority of the companies. Secondly, it is also necessary to acknowledge the fact that homemade cooking also could be harmful and dangerous. For example, heavily fried chicken wings on a daily basis are not healthy at all. They actually could damage the body in the same way as fast food products. In fact, there are a lot of the possibilities to make homemade cooking dangerous and something that would constantly affect the health of the person in a negative way. Lecoviello. Too much sugar or too much fat are not only the elements of the fast food industry only. In fact, the majority of people eat a lot of candies, ice creams, fried meat, tons of dough in order to feed themselves. It is not a healthy homemade cooking at all. The fact is that it depends on the preferences of the individual or the family. At the same time, the homemade cooking could be seen as limiting as it heavily relies on the budget of the person or the family. The poor families would not be able to buy high-quality fish for the entire months in order to feed all of the members. Therefore, they prefer to use cheaper ingredients. Some of these ingredients could be as harmful as the fast food, and there it is impossible to deny that. The food does not only have to help to get rid of the hunger, but it also has to contribute some important elements in the body of the person, so she could have normal processes inside the body and improve the state of it by eating healthy food. The fast food's price depends on the economy of the country and the financial opportunities homemade cooking in terms of a single meal. People could not buy a slice of bread, a glass of a person an individual. However, all over the world, the fast food is cheaper than the of milk, a bit of meat in order to make the sandwich or to make a hot dog, for instance, as F94. 3 Sem. B. Com. BBA generic English, and there are not any stores where it is possible to buy a small amount of ingredients and products. There is not any sense for the retailer to sell the goods in such a small amount. Smith. Hence, for the people it is more convenient to buy fast food meals that are cheap and it is enough for a single lunch, breakfast or dinner in order to reduce the hunger and to have enough resources to continue the day. For sure, it is cheaper in terms of the single dish. However, homemade cooking is less expensive than fast food in case of the long-term perspectives. Pritchard. For example, families usually buy food for the entire week and they plan the menu more or less. They could have various meals from the same ingredient. For instance, out of chicken, it is possible to fry the meat, boiling it and make the soup, to bake it, and many other options. For the person or the family, it is much more beneficial and different way to prefer homemade cooking, as it is less expensive, compared to the weekly consumption of the fast food. 3 meals per day during the week would not be cheaper as the ingredients too long for the entire week. Additionally, the fast food is about the time and effort it requires to consume the meal. For example, during the short breaks at work, it is impossible and unreasonable to cook a lunch. Hence, the majority of people prefer eating in the cafes and eating fast food. It is a great way to reduce the essential time and to fill the stomach. Everyone does that. It only depends on the cuisine that people choose to eat. For example, it is much faster to buy a hot dog than to go to the restaurant and order some soup. It is a waste of someone's time. Apart from that, the only effort that people have to put in order to obtain the hot dog is to wait in the queue that moves pretty quickly. Compared to the way the homemade food is made, it is too simple. For the homemade food, it is necessary to buy the ingredients to prepare and process them, to cook the meal, and after that people could eat that. Pritchard. It would require several hours. It is not as complicated as people might think. However, it requires more effort than the wait in the queue for the hot dog. Apart from that, it is also necessary to state that there are a lot of the possibilities to reduce even that time by ordering the fast food, such as pizza or sushi in the workplace. In that case, people do not have to spend any time to buy the meal. They simply have to wait for the delivery. The problem with the fast food and the consideration of the fast food as the serious alternative to replace the homemade cooking is that people think about the food as the source of the energy. It is true that food is essential for the life of all living organisms. However, it is also possible to say that people might enjoy food and receive mental satisfaction from the new discoveries in the culinary. Lecoviello. The fast food is almost the same across the world. For sure, there are local cuisines in some countries that utilize the fast food as platform to sell it. However, it is also necessary to state that the hot dog in the US would be the same as the hot dog in Japan, for example. While the handmade cooking does not only contain the important elements for the life of people, but it also contains the unique taste that could provide satisfaction, certain memories, and other moments that make the dish special. Cooking versus eating out. Everyone has the favorite dish and it is connected to the handmade cooking, for sure. What is more important is the fact that the homemade cooking is about not only the food and the ingredients. It is about the dedication, attention, and time. In some way it could be considered even as a present and something more than just a meal location. F90. Sell the fast food does not contain such information inside of it. EVERSHINE. In addition, the perception of people is that the homemade cooking actually is better and is healthier, in case if people want to eat healthily. The portions in the fast food chains are not usually regulated. The producers provide their own standards of the portion, while the homemade cooking does not have any obligations or requirements when it is done. People could eat in amounts they want and when they want to do it. It is reasonable to state that fast food does not have this freedom, and it is to the contrary influences people to buy something additional to the meal, such as drinks or snacks. Smith. At home, people could do whatever they want and eat in a way they enjoy the most. Apart from that, it is also possible to combine different cuisines and to use any ingredient that people like. In the fast food cafes, the clients have to order something from the specific menu that creates limitations in some way. In conclusion, the fast food is more harmful than the homemade cooking, as it contains dangerous chemicals and a lot of fat that negatively influence health of people. Also, homemade cooking contains more elements that are important for the body and for the entire health. The fast food dishes do not have the same amount of valuable elements that positively influence the nutrition. The fast food is more expensive compared to the homemade cooking. Even though it is more convenient than the homemade cooking, still it is a limited market, where people could not eat what they want. Customers eat what the fast food industry sells to them. Therefore, the homemade cooking is better for all of the people and it is much healthier. Education vs. employment. Education has become a key tool to success in many societies around the globe. Education has become highly valued because of the form of capitalist world we live in. Different nations around the world are working towards having a growing GDP as a symbol of growing economy. Through education, people gain knowledge and skills that are treasured in the job market. This indicates that people who are uneducated tend to be segregated in the job market because they do not possess the required skills, thereby making education an important factor in the society. It is also crucial to note that one's level of education affects their pay in respect to their jobs. For example, people who have earned a doctorate degree tend to be paid higher compared to those whose highest academic study is high school. Haugen 32. In addition, people with less education are the first one to be laid off in case of a recession. During the economic recession of 2008 in the U.S., most people who were laid off their work were those who had less experience and low education level. Thus, this paper will examine and discuss how unemployment and education are intertwined according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The current unemployment level of the country is 7.3%. In addition, the Bureau of Statistics accounted 29.5% of unemployment level to the people who dropped out of school and 39.7% to people with a high school. The job market. However, people with masters accounted for only 1.6% of the U.S. diploma. This shows how people with less educational background are less marketable in unemployment rate. This is because people with high level of education have mastered skills that make them marketable to many businesses and industries. These statistics show that the level of education has either promoted or hindered one from applying for a job. F96. ILSEM. B. Com. BBA generic eng. Given that the 21st century is a technological world, which was not prominent during other eras, employers accentuate to people with some of advanced skills and profound knowledge gained in the classroom. This makes them more productive compared to people who have less education. Thus, it is clear that people with less education tend to account for the higher percentage rate of the unemployment rate in the U.S. compared to those with education. Forrester 98. In addition, people with less education tend to be paid less compared to those that have a high level of education. High level of education is profoundly paralleled with one's skills, and knowledge. This has enabled the education sector to peak over the last couple of years in that people want to gain more education so as to not only secure their job safety but also advance their skills. Exercises. 1. Write a comparative paragraph on house and nest using the details given below. A. Major differences and similarities. B. Their construction. C. Materials used. Ends. In contrast to a house, a nest is small and only has one room. Another difference is that a house is typically for humans while a nest is for birds. However, you might be surprised to find out that nests and houses have some things that are the same. For instance, both nests and houses provide shelter.